un architecte contextuel, mais le contexte pour moi c'est pas uniquement le site, c'est vraiment avant tout un contexte historique beaucoup plus large, un contexte culturel, et effectivement construire dans les pays arabes sont très différents d'abord, mais à chaque fois c'est essayer de continuer une histoire et d'intervenir dans cette histoire. Je crois qu'un bâtiment a toujours des liens, a toujours des racines. Et je me vois mal faire à Paris un bâtiment qui pourrait être à Doha, et à Doha un bâtiment qui pourrait être à Paris. Ça me paraît difficile. Pourtant, quand vous arrivez là-bas, il y en a quelques-uns qui pourraient être dans les deux endroits. Donc, c'est pas uniquement une question d'intégration au site, comme on dirait, selon ce qu'on nous apprend à l'école. C'est une intégration dans une profondeur historique. C'est un témoignage à un moment donné d'une influence culturelle qui vient changer la donne. L'architecture, c'est pour cela qu'elle ne doit pas toujours être la même. Elle doit parler à chaque fois de quelqu'un. Elle ne peut pas être la même dans le monde entier. Elle doit bien parler pour quelqu'un. Elle doit bien témoigner des désirs de quelqu'un. Je crois que l'architecture, c'est écouter. Donc on ne fait pas la même architecture à l'ouest, à l'est, au sud, etc. Donc je veux dire, on n'a pas... L'architecte n'a pas à imposer ses propres valeurs ou ses propres sensibilités sur des plans aussi généraux. Je ne le crois pas. On n'arrive pas avec un bagage qui est le nôtre et on dit vous prenez ça, à moins qu'on vienne nous chercher pour ça. Mais c'est pas la philosophie que j'ai de mon métier. Je crois que mon métier, c'est d'abord d'essayer de comprendre où ces architectures vont se situer, comment elles vont s'ancrer et quel sens elles vont faire là où elles vont être. Donc toujours ce problème de sens et de sensibilité. Je crois que l'architecte, le rôle de l'architecte, c'est de rappeler qu'il construise quelque part. Autrement dit, que le terrain n'est pas libre, que c'est pas une chose complètement nue. C'est pas vrai que c'est vide. Il y a beaucoup de charges historiques et géographiques et beaucoup de charges, une énorme mémoire de ces pays liés au désert, à la mer, liés et liés à leur religion et à leur culture générale.
But nature is a very wide word also. I mean, for us, nature is not only about plants, of course, it's plants, but it's more about the climate, about the general surrounding, about the people also. So we see that, I mean, also about the timing. I mean, the time passing through the buildings for us is nature. I mean, there's a lot of effects that you can call them nature. And those effects of course, in the architecture for us are kind of the most important ones. I mean, it's the only ones where normally we work with. So depending where we are or how which is the different project where we're working with, we always try to understand the nature, the surrounding, but even the history of those things, but even the climate, how it works, but even the possibility to generate, or if it doesn't exist really something interesting, to generate a kind of new nature.
A mí me gustaría ver mi obra sobre todo ligada a la ciudad. En el fondo me cuesta ver la obra de arquitectura despojada de lo que son sus obligaciones con un determinado momento en el tiempo y con un determinado lugar. Y entiendo que la obra de arquitectura, las más de las veces, por no decir siempre, está enraizada y tiene obligación de entender el medio en el que se produce.
It's a completely immersive field It's re-examining the idea of the block. So it's no longer a perimeter block. It's not a podium with a tower. It's very exhilarating. Also, it can be very calming. It's like going to the park because it has that kind of rock-like, landscape-like quality, fluid quality. I think that the idea was to kind of make a completely seamless building. So the landscape literally crawls up the edge of the building and becomes like a mountain.
It was very important that whatever we propose actually breaks away from the rigid monumentalist Soviet architecture, and we wanted to reflect Azerbaijan's sensual side.
Turn the corner and this building changes. With every angle, every turn, it reveals something new and unexpected. It's one of the most remarkable structures I've ever seen.
There's a romanticism involved, and we wanted to do something very sensual, and at the same time, but we wanted to do something very strong.
Traces of Zaha's buildings, their outlines and curves, can be found in more ancient surfaces. Look closely and you'll see in this Arabic calligraphy familiar shapes. Carved before us is a line of fluid forms, like Zaha buildings set in stone.
Fluidity in architecture in this region always existed. So if you look at like the Islamic architecture's interiors, you always see the calligraphy or ornamental floral patterns running through in all these interior surfaces, from carpets to walls to ceiling to dome. And within our case, I mean, we use fluid spaces which is continuously running, and without being iconographic or without looking at the past, can relate to the region's understanding of architecture.
So our office here in Copenhagen, we have maybe 25 different nationalities. One of the advantages of having multiple people collaborating from different cultures and different backgrounds is that the tendency to take things for granted diminishes because nobody has exactly the same references. By bringing people together from different backgrounds, everything gets questioned. Nothing is taken for granted. And you end up turning more stones than you would otherwise. And you end up having these accidental discoveries. Good design is a design that is informed by specific information. What kind of a climate do you have? What kind of a building code do you have? What kind of a social behavior do you have and would you like to promote? So that everything you do is actually done for a specific purpose. Because I think good design is careful, bad design is careless. I think what's in a bizarre way unique about our work is that we actually do what we say. So that each project somehow we start by diving into the specific situation. What's the city? What's the landscape? What's the climate? What do the neighbors look like? What has to happen here? Like, we try to look at all these practicalities, and we also try to see what do people normally do? Like, how would you normally build this kind of school? So in the end, you can say like our buildings end up looking different because they perform different. So I think the starting point is always to try to establish what are the key criteria, what is the most important question. And once you've identified the question, all you need to do is answer it. But you won't arrive at the right answer in the first go. So what you have to do is test and see how it actually works once you put the hypothesis into its consequence. Whenever we start a project, we will try to analyze what could be the key criteria in this specific situation. What's the most important issue? And then we try to make little design ideas that respond to those criteria. And then we try to mate the ideas. We try to see if we can combine maximum density with maximum views and sunlight and see what does that look like. So almost in this sort of Darwinian evolution, we sort of select and combine different criteria, different parental ideas, get different offspring. Some of them turn into mutants, and some of them turn into really interesting hybrids. So it becomes like this sort of evolutionary process, but it's also a quite wasteful process. You have to examine and investigate and test all these ideas. And my general principle is the more waste you produce in the design process, the less waste you'll end up building in the city.